Most producers think they need more sounds to make their track sound professional, but in techno, the more sounds you add, the worse it will sound. Let me show you the mistake that is ruining your tracks. In this video, you will understand why less is more. I am Aklow, director of Hard Industrial Techno, and without further ado, let's begin. This is what usually happens. You start with a kick, then you add percussion, synths, effects, and when you realize it, you already have 40 or 50 channels open. And even though everything sounds good separately, together they don't work. And what will the result be? The track loses strength, loses groove, and it won't sound professional. The mistake isn't the sound you use, the mistake is producing without a main element. If we're talking about techno, in techno, the main element will always be the kick. The entire track should exist in function of the kick. Let's look at this first project, which is full of elements with many channels, and there is no concrete order. I just wanted to let you know that I miss you. I just wanted to take a moment to reach out and let you know how much I really miss you. Honestly, I have been thinking about you constantly, and I just really wanted to tell you that I miss you so much. I just wanted to let you know. There is too much information competing at the same time here. Now watch what happens when I start muting different channels that really don't contribute anything to the track. Suddenly, everything breathes better and each sound now has a space within the track. In techno, hard techno, industrial techno, or for example in tech house or house, these types of genres, it's not about how many elements you add, it's about your song generating something in people's heads that makes them dance. It's about your song making bodies move. Remember that in techno, the relationship between the kick, the bass, and the percussion is absolutely key. Think of it as if the kick and the bass were best friends. Both must complement each other very well, and the percussion will be those elements that will add much more flavor to your track. It is from there that the groove begins to be built. Let's listen to it all together. There are three things you have to keep very much in mind. First, if you make the relationship between the kick, the bass, and the percussion perfect, you've already got half the track secured. Second, you have to keep spatiality in mind. Each sound must have its moment. If you place one layer of sound on top of another, most likely, that's where they will fight over which one is going to stand out more. The most recommended thing is to leave space for each of the sounds. It can be every 4 beats, every 8, every 16, every 32, but the important thing is that there is never a conflict between one sound and another, but rather that they all have their moment of appearance. Third, and very importantly, remember that in techno it's also about repetition. The goal is to achieve a rhythmic line or a melodic line which generates that hypnotic sensation. And this can be with any element, it can be with percussion, it can be with some vocals, it can be some synthesizer. That is up to you as a producer and which element you are going to establish to generate that progression. So, to recap, if you make the relationship between the kick, the bass, and the percussion perfect, you've already got half the track secured. Second, the spaces. It is very important that you give each sound its place and its moment to appear. And third, hypnotic repetition. Remember that in the end, music is meant for people to keep thinking about it and for it to generate something in their bodies. After all, our goal as producers is also to make our music reach people and for people to feel a connection with it. As we said before, it should generate in them a feeling of dancing, a feeling of nodding their heads, so they keep thinking about some sound in your track. You also have to think about the fact that your music is going to be played by other DJs. You have to think about the criteria DJs use to choose the music they are going to download. Remember that the DJ will always be thinking about the groove, about those songs that make people dance. If the groove works with few channels, this is a track that can work very well for a club or a party. But if, on the other hand, you are placing many sounds to find that groove, then we are doing something wrong. You have to remember that cliché phrase, less is more. And although we have all heard this phrase at some point, believe me that in music, in techno, in electronic music, it is a very real phrase and it really works. Try this on your next track. Start by adding only the kick. Build the track's groove based on the kick, and until you feel that the track has a certain flavor, something that makes you nod your head, don't add anything else until you achieve that first. When you achieve that, then you will add new elements that go on to complement the main groove of our track. Remember that every sound must have a reason to exist within our track. It has to contribute something. Now, I also want to clarify something, and that is that there is no rule that tells you how many channels your track should have. There are tracks that have 20 channels and sound perfect. There are tracks with 40 channels and that's fine. There are even tracks with 10 channels and everything works as it should. What I mean is that I don't want you to limit yourself, nor do I want you to overdo it. What you need is to develop a more critical ear to determine how many channels you are going to need and mainly to know when to stop. The difference between an amateur track and a professional track is often not adding more channels and more sounds, but, as I said before, knowing when to stop adding elements. If you want to learn more about music production focused on techno and electronic music, subscribe to this channel because I will be uploading more content like this, and I am sure it will help you improve a lot. And by the way, if you still struggle to finish your songs or can't find a way to give direction to that track you've had for a long time, I'll leave a video here that I made where I explain how to finish a song faster. I'm sure it will help you a lot. And now, in the comment section, I want you to tell me how many channels your projects usually have. 10, 20, 30? Tell me in the comments section, I'd be delighted to read them. And finally, remember to leave a like and share this video with any producer you think might need it too. With that said, I invite you to listen to my music on digital platforms and follow me on my other social networks, and I'll see you in the next video.